The toddler screamed, "Mama!" and 50 champagne flutes froze midair. Crystal shattered against marble. A 2-year-old in velvet lunged across the Ashford ballroom with such desperate force that he knocked a $3,000 vase off its pedestal. Shards scattered like broken teeth across the floor. But nobody moved to catch him, because Sebastian Ashford, heir to a billion-dollar empire, was reaching for the new Maid. Diana Reyes stood near the ice sculpture, her black uniform pressed, her hands folded, her face completely still. She didn't flinch, she didn't step back. She just watched the child scramble toward her like she was the only solid thing in a room full of ghosts. "Mama!" Sebastian wailed again, his tiny fingers grasping at her apron. "Mama! Mama! Mama!" The whispers started immediately. Nervous laughter, sidelong glances. Victoria Sinclair, draped in ivory silk and diamonds, gripped Marcus Ashford's arm so hard our knuckles went white. "Marcus," she hissed, "do something." Marcus blinked. His son was clinging to a woman he'd hired 3 days ago through an agency, a woman whose background check came back clean, a woman who was supposed to be invisible. "Sebastian," he said, forcing a smile for the crowd. "Come here, buddy, that's not—" "Mama!" The boy's voice cracked. Tears streamed down his cheeks. He buried his face in Diana's apron and sobbed like his heart was breaking. Diana knelt slowly. She cupped the back of his head with one hand, and her lips moved close to his ear. "I'm here, mi vida. I kept my promise." Patricia Ashford, Marcus's mother, set down her champagne with a sharp click. Her eyes were ice. "Remove her now." 2 security guards stepped forward. The guests parted like a wave. Marcus felt the room tilting, felt the weight of 50 gazes pressing against his skull. But Diana didn't run. She reached into her apron pocket, not for a weapon, not for a phone, but for an envelope. Water-stained, yellowed at the edges, sealed with red wax that bore the initials LMA. Lena Marie Ashford. His dead wife's initials. "I was told to give this to you," Diana said, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "Only if he called me Mama." Marcus's throat closed. Lena had been gone for 2 years. Cancer, they said. Complications, they said. She died 3 weeks after giving birth, and he'd buried her in the family plot beside a rose garden she never got to see bloom. Lena never wrote letters. She hated them. She always said handwriting felt like leaving pieces of yourself behind. So why was he holding one now? "Open it," Victoria said sharply. "It's obviously fake. She's trying to manipulate you." But Marcus's hands were already tearing at the seal. Inside, there was no letter, just a photograph. Lena, 8 months pregnant, her face pale but smiling. She was holding a newborn Sebastian, still wrinkled and red, umbilical cord freshly cut. And standing beside Lena, one hand on Lena's shoulder, was Diana Reyes. Diana was wearing a hospital bracelet. The text on it read, "Birth Mother, D. Reyes." Marcus looked up. The room blurred. His son was still crying in this stranger's arms, and suddenly the word stranger didn't fit anymore. "Who are you?" he breathed. Diana met his eyes. No fear, no apology. "I'm the woman your wife trusted when she couldn't trust anyone else." The ballroom erupted. Victoria started shouting orders. Patricia was on her phone, demanding lawyers. Security tried to pull Diana away, but Sebastian screamed so loud the chandelier seemed to shiver. And Marcus just stood there, holding a photograph of a secret his wife had taken to her grave. What else didn't he know? And how bad was this gonna get? 3 hours later, Marcus locked himself in his study with a bottle of scotch and the photograph. Rain hammered the windows. The party was over. The guests were gone. but the questions were just beginning. He stared at Diana's face in the photograph, young, mid-20s maybe. She was smiling, but there was something in her eyes, something heavy, something that looked like goodbye. A memory surfaced unbidden. Lena in her hospital bed, skeletal and gray, her fingers cold around his wrist. "If anything happens to me," she whispered, "I promise you'll let her protect him." He assumed she meant her cousin, or maybe a family friend. He'd nodded and kissed her forehead and told her she was going to be fine. She died 4 days later. He never asked who her was. Now he knew. A knock at the door made him flinch. "Mr. Ashford?" Diana's voice, calm, steady. "May I speak with you?" He wanted to say no. He wanted to call the police, have her arrested for trespassing, for fraud, for whatever crime would make this all go away. Instead, he said, "Come in." Diana entered slowly. She'd changed out of her uniform into jeans and a gray sweater. Without the apron, without the posture of servitude, she looked different, stronger, like someone who had been waiting a long time for this moment. "You know I have questions," he said. "That's an understatement." "I'll answer what I can," she said, sat across from him, uninvited but unafraid. "But first, you need to understand something. I'm not here to take Sebastian from you. I'm not here to blackmail you or expose you or destroy your family." "Then why are you here?" Diana's jaw tightened. "Because your fiancé is dangerous and your son is not safe." Marcus almost laughed. "Victoria, she's been nothing but devoted to Sebastian. She reads him bedtime stories,
She's been watching him," Diana cut in, "studying him, waiting for the right moment to become indispensable. And once she does, once she has legal standing as his stepmother, she'll have access to the trust Lena set up. $40 million, held until Sebastian turns 18, unless his legal guardian petitions for early release." Marcus's blood chilled. He hadn't told anyone about that trust, not even his mother. "How do you know about that?" "Because Lena told me." Diana pulled a second envelope from her pocket. This one was smaller, cleaner, addressed in Lena's handwriting. "For Diana. Open only if necessary." "She gave me this the day before she died," Diana said. "I've been carrying it for 2 years, hoping I'd never have to use it." Marcus took the envelope. His hands were shaking now. Inside was a letter, Lena's handwriting, shaky but unmistakable. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. He doesn't know the truth, but Sebastian is yours by blood. I carried him, but you gave him life. Protect him from them. They'll never accept you, but you're his mother, the only one who ever wanted him just because he existed. Don't let them erase that. Don't let them erase you." Marcus read it twice, 3 times. The words didn't change. "I don't understand," he said. "The doctors told me Lena gave birth naturally. There was no surrogate, no IVF, no—" "There was," Diana said quietly. "Lena was diagnosed with ovarian cancer at 26, before she even met you. She froze her eggs, but the treatments damaged her uterus. When you two decided to have a baby, she couldn't carry, so she asked me." "Asked you to what?" "To donate eggs, to carry him, to give her the child she couldn't have on her own." Diana's voice cracked for the first time. "I was her best friend, Marcus, since we were 8 years old. I would have done anything for her." Marcus stared at her, the woman who had scrubbed his floors, who had stood invisible in the corner of his ballroom, who had held his screaming son like she'd been waiting 2 years just to touch him again. "Sebastian is biologically yours," he said. It wasn't a question. Diana nodded. "But legally, emotionally, in every way that matters, he was Lena's. I signed away my rights before he was even born. I never intended to be his mother. I just wanted to give Lena the one thing she wanted more than anything." "Then why come back now? Why the maid disguise? Why—" Because Victoria is going to kill him. The words hit like a sledgehammer. That's insane. Is it? Diana leaned forward. Ask your mother what really happened the night Lena died. Before Marcus could respond, the study door burst open. Victoria stood in the doorway, her face pale, her eyes wild. Behind her, a man in a gray suit held a folder thick with documents. Marcus, Victoria said sweetly, we need to talk about your little house guest. The man stepped forward. I'm Liam Crow, private investigator. Your fiancé hired me to verify this woman's background. And? Marcus's voice was ice. Crow opened the folder. Diana Reyes doesn't exist. Her social security number belongs to a woman who died in 2019. Her work history is fabricated. Her references are fake. Victoria smiled. She's a con artist, Marcus, a fraud, and I have proof she's been manipulating Sebastian. She pulled out her phone and hit play. The video showed Diana in Sebastian's nursery, leaning over his crib, whispering, Say mama, mi vida, say mama for me. Sebastian giggled and repeated the word. Marcus's chest collapsed. You coached him, he whispered. Diana didn't deny it. She just looked at Victoria with something cold and knowing in her eyes. Ask your mother, she said again. Ask her what happened the night Lena died. Ask her why she was in the East Wing at 3 a.m. Ask her who she was with. Victoria's smile flickered, just for a second, just long enough. Get her out of my house, Marcus said. If you're watching this right now and you can feel how deep this betrayal goes, drop a comment below and tell me, would you have believed Diana or would you have trusted your fiancé? 2 days later, Victoria's video went viral. The headline read, Ashford heir brainwashed by imposter Maid. Comments exploded. Twitter threads dissected every frame. A gossip blogger called it the scandal of the decade. And by noon, Child Protective Services was at the gate. Marcus watched from his office window as the social worker walked up the drive. His mother stood beside him, her face unreadable. This is for the best, Patricia said. That woman was unhinged. Sebastian needs stability. He needs his mother, Marcus said without thinking. Patricia's eyes narrowed. Lena is dead. I know, but the words felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. The photograph, the letter, Lena's face when she'd said Victoria is going to kill him. He'd dismissed it as paranoia, desperation, the ravings of a woman who'd lost everything and was clinging to the only connection she had left. But Victoria's smile in that doorway haunted him. The flicker, the crack in the mask. He signed the papers anyway. Diana's access to Sebastian was revoked. She was escorted off the property by security, her belongings in a cardboard box, her face blank. Sebastian screamed for 3 hours straight. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He wandered the halls like a ghost, passing Lena's old room, her closet still full of clothes he couldn't bring himself to donate. He ended up in the nursery, staring at his son's empty crib.
Sebastian was with the social worker now. Temporary placement, they said, just until the investigation concluded. A sound made him turn. Diana was standing in the doorway. "How did you get in?" "Mrs. Chin." Diana stepped inside, her eyes red. "She knows. She's always known." "Known what?" "That I'm not the enemy." Diana's voice broke. "Marcus, please. I know you don't trust me. I know how this looks, but you have to listen." "I don't have to do anything." He grabbed her arm, tried to steer her toward the door. "You need to leave before I call the police." Diana yanked free. "Victoria switched Lena's medication." Marcus froze. "The night she died, Victoria came to the house. She brought tea. Lena thought it was a peace offering. They'd been fighting for weeks. But I was there, Marcus. I saw her pour something into the cup, and 2 hours later, Lena collapsed." "That's insane. The doctors said it was a blood clot, a complication from the birth." "The doctors said what your mother paid them to say."
Marcus's hand shot out and gripped her shoulders. "Stop! She was murdered!" Diana's eyes were wild, desperate. "And if you don't stop Victoria, Sebastian will be next." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then footsteps echoed down the hall. Patricia appeared, flanked by 2 security guards. Her face was stone. "I told you to stay away from my son," she said to Diana. "I'm not leaving without Sebastian. You don't have a choice." The guards stepped forward. Diana didn't resist. She just looked at Marcus one last time. "The kitchen cameras from that night. Ask Mrs. Chin." They dragged her out. Sebastian's screams echoed from somewhere upstairs. Somehow, impossibly, he'd heard her voice. And Marcus stood alone, his dead wife's secrets unraveling around him like a shroud. The next morning, the judge granted Victoria temporary sole custody. Based on the evidence of manipulation and the ongoing investigation into Ms. Reyes's fraudulent identity, the ruling read, the child's best interests are served by placement with a stable parental figure. Victoria smiled for the cameras. She wore white. She held Sebastian on her hip like a trophy. Marcus wasn't even allowed to say goodbye. The low point hit that night. Marcus drove to Lena's grave and sat in the rain until his suit was soaked through. He'd failed her. He'd failed Sebastian. He'd trusted the wrong people, ignored the signs, and now his son was in the arms of a woman who might have killed his mother. If you're still watching, hit that like button right now, because what happens next changes everything. 3 days later, Mrs. Chin knocked on his door. She was 72 years old. She'd worked for the Ashford family for 40 years. She'd made Marcus's birthday cakes. She'd held Lena's hand during chemo. And she'd never, in all that time, asked for anything. Now she pressed a USB drive into his palm. "I saved the kitchen cameras from that night. I was going to erase them. Your mother told me to, but something stopped me." Her eyes glistened. "Lena was kind to me. She deserved better than silence." Marcus plugged the drive into his laptop. The footage was grainy, time-stamped 2:47 a.m., dated the night Lena died. The kitchen was dark. A figure moved near the stove. Victoria, her back to the camera, her hand steady as she poured something from a small vial into a teacup. Lena entered, pale, exhausted. She took the cup and smiled. "Thank you. I know we haven't always gotten along, but drink it while it's hot. It'll help you sleep." Lena drank. 20 minutes later, another clip. Lena collapsed in the hallway, her body convulsing. Patricia appeared, kneeling beside her, not to help, but to whisper, "Call it an accident. The baby will be ours, just like we planned." Victoria stepped in frame. She looked down at Lena's body with no emotion, none. "She's still breathing," she said. "Not for long." The final clip was the worst. Victoria holding newborn Sebastian in the hospital 2 days later, cooing at him, smiling. "Don't worry, little heir. Your real mother's gone, and soon no one will remember her." Marcus watched the footage 3 times, then he threw up. He didn't go to the police. He didn't call his lawyers. He didn't confront his mother. Instead, he drove to Lena's grave at sunset, set up his phone on the headstone, and went live on Instagram. "My name is Marcus Ashford," he said, his voice raw. 2 years ago, my wife died. I was told it was a complication from childbirth. I was lied to." He held up the USB drive. "This footage shows Victoria poisoning my wife's tea the night she died. It shows my mother covering it up, and it shows them planning to take my son." He played the clips, all of them. "My son called his maid Mama because she was the only one who ever truly protected him. Her name is Diana Reyes. She was Lena's best friend. She carried my son when Lena couldn't, and she gave up everything to keep him safe. His voice cracked. I failed her. I failed my wife. I failed my son. But I'm not failing them anymore. The video hit 1 million views in 2 hours. #Justice for Lena trended worldwide. Victoria's family released a statement distancing themselves from her.
Patricia Ashford suffered a stroke and was rushed to the hospital, and at 9:47 p.m., Victoria tried to run. Marcus intercepted her at the private helipad behind the estate. She was carrying Sebastian, a suitcase clutched in her other hand. The helicopter blades were already spinning. "You can't stop me," she shouted over the noise. "I have lawyers. I have resources. You think one video changes anything?" "It changes everything." Marcus stepped closer. "You wanted a dynasty, but he's not an heir, Victoria. He's a child who screamed for his mother, and you tried to silence him." Sebastian reached for Marcus. "Dada!" Victoria's grip tightened. "He's mine now, legally. The judge is watching the same footage everyone else is." Marcus held out his arms. "Give him to me. It's over." For a moment, Victoria's mask slipped. Behind the composure, behind the calculated charm, there was something hollow, something broken. She shoved Sebastian toward him and ran for the helicopter. She didn't make it. Police sirens cut through the night. Officers swarmed the helipad. Victoria was arrested for attempted kidnapping and conspiracy to commit murder. She screamed Marcus's name the whole way to the squad car. He didn't look back. 1 month later, there was no mansion, no estate, no board meetings or champagne galas. Marcus rented a small house near the coast. 3 bedrooms, a garden, a swing set that Sebastian loved more than any toy he'd ever owned. Diana lived in the guest room, not as a maid, not as an employee, but as family. She was there when Sebastian took his first steps without holding on to anything. She was there when he said his first full sentence, "Love you, Mama." She was there every morning, making pancakes and singing the same Spanish lullabies Lena used to hum. Marcus never asked her to leave. One evening, he found her on the porch, watching the sunset. "Thank you," he said. She looked at him, surprised. "For what?" "For keeping your promise, even when I made it impossible." Diana smiled. It was the first real smile he'd ever seen from her. "Lena knew you'd come around eventually. She always believed in you. She believed in you more." Sebastian ran out the back door, sand on his feet, a seashell clutched in his fist. "Mama!" he shouted, reaching for Diana. "Look what I found!" She scooped him up, laughing. Marcus watched them together, the woman who gave his son life, the boy who screamed her name across a crowded ballroom and refused to let go. On the kitchen table, 2 framed photographs sat side by side, one of Lena, glowing and pregnant, her hand resting on her belly, and one of Marcus, Diana, and Sebastian, taken last week at the beach, smiling, whole. Love isn't blood, Marcus realized. It's not genetics or legality or what the world decides you deserve. Love is the vow you keep when no one's watching. And sometimes it takes a child's scream to wake the whole world up. If this story moved you, if you felt your heart pounding during those twists, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. Drop a comment and tell me, would you have trusted Diana from the beginning, or did the reveal shock you too? Like this video if you believe love is stronger than blood, and share it with someone who needs to hear that family isn't always the people you're born to, it's the people who choose to stay.